So I recently did a video flying the Mini 4 Pro with the Goggles 3 using the RC2 controller. And some people were wondering what the range is like with this setup. And I too was wondering the same thing, so I decided to do some testing. Hey everyone, it's Mark with Create and Captivate, and I have a few range tests to share with you in this video, including the Mini 4 Pro, the Avata 2, and the Avata 1 from two different locations. Now, the Avata 2 and the Avata 1 were just something I decided to add in for some comparison. But the first test I did was with the Mini 4 Pro, the Goggles 3, and the RC2 controller. So let's check out the screen recording from that and see how it went. I'm going to speed these up so we can get through them faster, but each flight I first went through the return to home settings just to make sure they were all set appropriately. Now, I expected to get pretty good results from here because I was flying from a location that was basically higher than anything in front of me, so I had a really good line of sight, and there wasn't going to be a whole lot of signal interference out here. You will see the two signal strength icons down at the bottom of the screen periodically dropping, but the controls and video feed were still fine. The RC icon shows the controller signal strength, and the HD is the image transmission signal strength. I did run into an enhanced warning zone, so I decided to alter my course to avoid it. And now at about 4 kilometers or around 2.5 miles, the signals both start dipping into the red, but I still have good control and no breakup in the image transmission. And it just kept going. The signal strength indicators were turning red, but I wasn't noticing any interruption. The problem was it was really windy and the battery just got too low. So when it told me to return to home, I thought I should listen to it. But it still made it 5,365 meters or 17,600 feet before it initiated the return to home. It's pretty windy, so that's why I didn't want to risk going any further, because I'm not sure if it's even going to make it now. I'm sure it should make it home though. And it did make it back home safely with 12% battery left. Now, I did try the test with my Avata 2 from this location, but I didn't end up getting a screen recording, so you can't really see much as far as signal strength from the drone. And although it made it quite far, the battery just got too low because it was battling the wind the whole way, and I had to turn back. Now, similar to the Mini 4 Pro, the signal strengths were going up and down, but I hadn't yet experienced any interruption in the video feed or controls. Oh, low battery. Well, it's telling me to return to home, and I'm not gonna push it either on this one just because of the wind. That's kind of one reason. So about 11,500 feet, we're returning to home. What are we in kilometers or meters? So I decided to try it again from a different location. And I was still going to have to deal with the wind because right now it's just super windy here. In fact, most of the time it's windy here. But from this location, there might be a little more signal interference. And I was also flying from a field that wasn't elevated like the previous location, so there would likely be more to obstruct the signal transmission. So let's take a look at the Avata 2 test from this location. Now, you can see how windy it is because the horizon is never level and sometimes it's at a 45-degree angle. I know it's hard to watch, so I'll try to keep it quick. But I did notice the signal strength dropping off a lot quicker from here. Now, even though both the RC and the image signals were dropping into the orange and red, I wasn't noticing anything on my end. But at 2,382 meters, or about 7,800 feet, the image quality really started to break up, so I figured I would initiate a return to home. And I don't think it would have made it much further anyway, but that's kind of what I expected. If you're flying from an elevated location, you'll have less obstructing your signal, and like this location, sometimes you're not always flying from that ideal location and your signal range will be reduced. I wanted to try the Mini 4 Pro again from here just to see how it would do compared to the first location. And this video is much more pleasant to watch because it keeps a nice level horizon. One thing I did notice was my obstacle avoidance icons were gray, and I wondered if that was just because I was in sport mode. Now, that is true, but I also had the obstacle avoidance disabled in the settings, and that's why the icons were gray. If I turn the obstacle avoidance on and then go into sport mode, the icons will turn red. I guess that's indicating it's off but not disabled. Now, with the Mini 4 Pro as well, the signal strength started dipping sooner than it did in the first test. And it wasn't much past 2,000 meters when the signal from both the controller and the video feed really started dropping. Then it started giving me a warning that the RC signal was weak, and it wasn't long before the RC signal just dropped right off. Then the image transmission signal followed shortly after, and that's when it auto-initiated a return to home. So it made it just under 8,500 feet or 2,500 meters. And I think the main reason for the much shorter range is mostly due to more obstructions in the signal path between the drone and the goggles and controller, but there was also likely more signal interference here, which can be expected. The more populated the area, the more effect interference will have on the range. Something else I wanted to mention was if you're starting to lose signal and you turn around to start flying back, you'll often lose signal at that point. So it might be a better idea to first try flying straight backwards before turning around. Now, just because I had it with me, I decided to try this out with my Avata 1 using the Goggles Integra and the FPV controller 2. And unlike the Mini 4 Pro, the video is very unstable and tilted the whole time. I couldn't do anything about the wind, but I figured I could still get a range test out of it. And I was a bit surprised that it almost did as good as the Avata 2 and Mini 4 Pro, but right around 2,000 meters, I stopped because the battery was getting pretty low, and then it ended up initiating a return to home. But because of the wind, the battery was almost down to 50%, so I was going to turn back anyway. And that was all the range tests I did. I really wish it wasn't so windy, but unfortunately that's something around here that is very common. But from this experience, I think the results show that these things can maintain a connection over a very long range, but things like obstructions and interference will cause that to vary significantly. And if you lose connection, hopefully the return to home doesn't malfunction. And don't cancel it when it gives you the option. Anyway, I hope you found this video informative. Don't forget to give it a like. And if you're not subscribed, consider that so you won't miss any of my upcoming videos, and I'll see you on the next one.